Good night, good night, good night, good night, everybody. Good night, good night, good night. Welcome, welcome, welcome to once again Track and Feelings. Come on in, come on in, come on in, and let us have great discussions. Let us have a talk. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, wherever you are joining us from. Once you come on in, please like and share so that others are able to see it and also able to be here with us. Tonight, definitely, we will be having some great discussion. We will be also speaking on some matters or any matters at all that is pertaining to track and field, answering questions and getting educated as best as possible. As you know, that's how we do it over here. So, welcome, 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 welcome. And as you all already know, that we have a special guest tonight with us. Definitely, we want to be doing this as best as we can and also to get it going. So come on in, come on in, come on in. Please remember, if it is possible, that you place your name beside your comment, because sometimes we don't get to see who it is that is speaking, and I would love to also give shout outs to you. So come on in as you go. We are here tonight. As we stated before, we will definitely be having our special guest, and we are here for that at the moment. Hey, Lizzie, thank you so much. You're early to class tonight, I see. Please go ahead and share it with someone, share it with a group that they are able to come on over. We are having steaming discussion because we were talking about some of the business of track and field as we go along tonight. So welcome everybody, welcome as you go along. Thank you so much for loving the background. We are working on that and we are doing our best to continue to keep the track and feelings as active and as vibrant and professional as we can and as we go. I definitely will be introducing. Sorry, my apologies. As we can. We thank you so much, Marlon, for that. We definitely be introducing our admins as you know them. You know we are no stranger to you all, but definitely we are on the up and up, and we are also doing what we need to do. So share it so that other people can be here with us. Good night, Ali. Good night, good night. Please, as I said, share and come on in. Let us have a great conversation and a great talk. So let me just introduce our admins to you in the best way that we can, as short and as spicy as we can do that. So I know we always see us here and we talk and we vibe and we do things, but you don't really know anybody until you know somebody. That's my statement, or that's my thought space. So tonight, one of our vibrant, pretty admins, Mr. Handsome himself, we have Kino Cummings, who is a trained professional IAAF level 1 coach and the holder of a bachelor's degree in social work along with other qualifications. He as also has experience in media, as he has worked as a writer for two of the main online track and field sources. He currently is a manager in the tourism industry and is passionate. We all know Kino is passionate about him track and field and about the athlete that he carry. When Kino say one athlete, him hold on to that athlete, not letting it go. So definitely we welcome Kino tonight. We will see all admins up and up. Then we have the Rasta man in the bungle. Right? We have the one and only Jermaine Forrester, who is the holder of a bachelor's in music performance, currently doing also a bachelor's in music education. He is a teacher by profession for music, and he's also a musician. And he has been a fan of the sport for 25 years. So definitely, when Jermaine talk, we know how Jermaine is when he speaks with his passion for track and field. And we all have to know that, yes, he is the teacher in the bungle, in the admin. So come on in. Yeah. Then we will also have Mr. Zavian Duncan. Zavian Duncan is the holder of a master's degree in business administration from the University of Hartford. He also has a bachelor's in finance and management, and he has also he's a national representative for field hockey for Jamaica. So that is Zavian. So we have it mix up over here, you know. And then his aspiration is to enter the niche market of sports management. Um, Kind of going out on a limb for as it relates to track and field in somewhat. And everybody knows the only female in the bundle, right? That everybody knows and love. The pretty smile girl. I am Latoya Clarke. I'm a holder of a bachelor's degree in finance and management. I currently work for the Yellow Meter Group of Company, where I am passionate for crunching numbers, yes, and is only exceeded by my passion for track and field. So crunching numbers only exceeded by my passion for track and field, and I have worked as a commentator and have been involved in the sport for over 20 years. So I know I look pretty young, the queen of the pack, right? You know what I mean? Definitely. We're a mixture of everything and everything over here as we go along very much. I also have a background in banking. So we mix up over here. So but one great thing that brings us together at all times is the love we have for track and field and our athletes, definitely. So we all here will be having our discussion and we'll be talking. We also ask that you can shoot your questions and we will get your questions answers as best as possible. Now we will continue. Our special guest tonight is none other than Dr. Gregory Orlando Haughton, who is the three-time Olympic medalist, world champion, Goodwill Games champion, and Pan American Games champion. Also has a reputation as a scholar. So I didn't add him so you can get to see him. My apologies. Sorry. That's the lovely Dr. Gregory Orton there. He also holds a bachelor's in communications from George Mason University. He has an MBA from William Howard Taft University and a PhD in business management from North Central University. His mission is to empower a team of committed and dedicated men and women in developing their focus to work towards their aspirations. He's committed to positively shaping the world by mentoring and coaching others to take personal responsibility in achieving their dreams and aspiration. So, track and feelings. Let us give Dr. Gregory Orton a warm track and feelings welcome as we have him here tonight, and he will definitely be taking us through what is happening or what has happened, the past, the present, and also the future in his thought space of track and field. Okay, let us go. So, welcome, Dr. Horton. How are you today?
I am so blessed. Thank you for asking. Ever blessed. I love your middle name. Ever blessed.
Thank you.
I am blessed myself. It is a pleasure
Wonderful,
to be here
wonderful.
with you all.
Great, great. So, if I may be the first to shoot a question, I mean, we know that you have represented our country, that's the black, green, and gold, very well over the years in your time and in your era in the 400 meters. And we thank you for doing that because you never had to, you could have done something else. But we thank you for doing that. I just firstly want to say that out there for you, how do you view what is now currently happening for Jamaica as it relates to your pet event? I think that's my first question to you.
In terms of my pet event, I'm happy based on what I'm seeing now. It's the first time in a while since we have a few 400-meter runners going under sub 45. And it has never happened in a while. And I think that we have a new generation. The people who we expected to be at the forefront, they're not there. And I think the fire is burning in some of the other athletes who have been through the collegiate system. So I am happy based on what I see. I think that we have a rich culture, and to see the culture die off for the past few years where we are not competitive in the event. It's a pleasure to see, people like Sean Bailey coming back and representing people like Rashid McDonald. We see him run a sub 45 recently, which is a very good thing. We have the Akeem Bloomfield still lurking in the wings. Hopefully, he can become the best version of himself this year. And we have a lot of other young athletes who seem promising. So I'm hoping that this time around they can put it together and stay consistent.
Okay.
Can I ask a question on that, Dr. Haughton? When you were running, you had yourself, Michael Campbell, Michael Blackwood, Davian Clarke, all of that crew. You guys were a sure shot for a 4x4 medal. Worst case scenario bronze. And that's worst case scenario.
Mhm.
What is it that everybody has improved so much past us? Or is that we have not been doing what we're supposed to do?
I think that when you look at the people in my time, the Danny McFarlane, the Davian Clarke, the Michael McDonald, the Roxbert Martin, there was a fire there. There was a hunger there. We wanted to be great athletes. We gave it everything that we had. We were very competitive. We were not afraid to fail. And I don't see this in the youngsters today. Even though they demonstrate that talent, I see fear, I see uncertainty, I see doubt. So, but those things usually come about because you don't understand your event. And even though we weren't the best in terms of understanding, we had a level of understanding that could help us to tap into what was within us in order to bring it out. And we wanted to win. I think when you take that out of the equation with some of these young guys, they're just there for the money. But we wanted to win. For me, I wanted to come home with a medal every single time I step on the track. And I think these guys are comfortable just going to the next round. It appears that way. But in our time, we were hungry, we were determined, we weren't going to stop. We wanted it all.
Okay.
Hold on,
Interesting.
and a follow-up question on that, and I'm making it very, very short. Um, your achievements as an individual stands out. But over the years, watching the 4x4, and I watch a lot of past races. So I watched 96, 97, 99, Goodwill, all of these. You took your leg very seriously. And barring that 2000 US team, which we know was almost untouchable, what was your mindset when you got a button? Granted, you never got a button less than third. I don't think ever watching a race you got a button less than third. But what was your mindset whenever you got that button to run your leg, whether it was anchor or second or third?
Well, for me, as I said before, my aspiration was to come home with a medal. The worst thing could ever happen to me is not to come home with a medal. In 1993, we went to Stuttgart, and it was a young team, Danny McFarlane, myself, and it was the first time I did not come home with a medal, and I didn't like the feeling. So as a result of that, I purposed in my heart that whatever it would take to come home with a medal, that I would come home with a medal. And I remember thinking to myself that the cops would have to take me off this field because I'm not going to come off. That was the expectation that we put on ourselves. So when I got the baton, my goal was never ever to let down the team. My goal was either to maintain the position or to build on the position, but never to let down the team. And I think all the guys had that same mindset, and that is one of the reasons we were able to break the record time after time and stay competitive with some of the best teams in the world.
So, would you agree with the comment that that person says that relay is run with a heart?
Yes, yes, for the most part. You have some guys that even if they're not performing at their best, when it comes to the team, they seem to elevate their level of confidence and determination and resilience even more. So you can see, I remember running in high school with a gentleman by the name of Carl McPherson. Even if he wasn't performing individually, when it comes to the relay, you can count on him to give the best of himself. So yes, it definitely needs a heart. And one of the reasons for that is you never want to be the weak link on the team, because if you're the weak link on the team, you know you can't live with yourself if you cause the team to fail.
Okay.
I agree with
Okay.
that.
Kino,
Um,
you.
yeah, Kino.
Yeah, man. Good evening, Dr. Haughton.
Good evening, sir.
I'm glad you touched on the whole heart aspect and the fact that some of these athletes seemingly are fearful of their rivals and in some cases perhaps even fearful of themselves, you know. And that will lead me into the question: how much do you think sports psychology should weigh or should play or figure into how athletes progress? And do you even think that it should be a part of it? And it's a double barrel question. What, if any, provisions were made in your day for that aspect of things?
Well, in my time, I we did not have a psychologist, but what we had friendships, and we had a drive because our circumstances in Jamaica required that we get our minds right, which means, and not everyone was like that. I can tell you, for me, I had a purpose, and I said my purpose was to take my family out of poverty. So for me, I didn't need somebody to be over me every day to tell me what to do because the drive was already there. I knew clearly what was there to lose if I didn't give the best of myself. I think today, with with the level of competition and the level of expectations and some of the other personal issues that people are having now, I think you do need a mentor or a psychologist. No, there are differences between the mentor and the psychologist. Like, for example, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm a mentor. And in track and field, you need that lived experience. And sometimes the psychologists don't have the lived experience. Now, I can take any athlete from day one and I can walk them through the phases of development because I've been there, I've done that. I've failed at the highest level, I've failed at the lowest level. I know personally what it takes. So when I'm mentoring an athlete or a person, I can tell them all the pitfalls to avoid. Sometimes a psychologist cannot do that. However, some people are experiencing trauma, sexual abuse, and other things that require that they do get a psychologist. Some people who are struggling with fear of failure, they may need a psychologist. Some people who may have been betrayed in the past, that it affects them deeply, they might need a psychologist. And one of the things I find with track and field athletes that we have been through a lot, and in a lot of cases right now, in order for them, the athletes, to be the best version of themselves, they need someone that can help them to see the reality of life. Because as I see right now, a lot of them are living in the past, a lot of them are living in a fake world, the social media world. And as a result of that, the personal issues are getting it's they're interfering with their ability to perform when they step on the track.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, Dr. Haughton, thank you. And I agree with you 100%. I think it was last week I saw an article where Shakari Richardson said that she is in a better place now mentally, but it took some time and some effort on her part to surround herself with the right people to work on her mental health. And I think, barring the regular stuff, the abuse and things that they may have been carrying, because a lot of people see these athletes and don't understand that they are real people. We see the celebrity status, but we don't see that they are actually real people. And I think the weight also of transitioning from a high schooler with a lot of potential to an athlete who is performing on the biggest stage and carrying a country's expectation on their shoulder is also a huge deal that a lot of these athletes are going through right now. And I think, as you rightly said, there is a space for mentoring and there is also a space for sports psychology.
You see, and you're absolutely right because each instance is different. Somebody like a
Exactly.
Shakari Richardson, she was abused, or family on drugs, etc., etc. That's a lot of trauma there, and sometimes those negative experiences usually pop up at any moment in time. In my country, though, we may experience some of that, but it's mainly poverty and it's mainly expectations from others, maybe a guardian, a manager, and these
Yeah.
things are hard to deal with because I went through that stage of my life, and if I didn't have a strong mind and that determination, I would have struggled to perform consistently over time. But you don't have a lot of people like a Gregory Haughton because my upbringing, I was always focused and determined, and I didn't have a whole lot of personal issues like some people. So it was easier for me to stay focused. But some of the other athletes that I come in contact with, it is hard for them because, for one, they don't have a strong mind. They had a lot of personal issues that affect their ability to perform. And because of that, we are losing a lot of talented athletes along the wayside in Jamaica.
Absolutely.
It's a simple question because now that I think about it, I'm older now, so it may have looked different. I would have said to myself, I don't think your guys' generation mentally were weak. Because, I mean, when you look at people like Danny McFarlane and Davian and yourself and Michael
The
McDonald,
Veronica Campbells of this world.
right? You look at these guys, but I'm saying to myself, hearing you talk about it, I'm thinking, do you think you guys would have probably reacted the same way if you guys had social media in your time? Because everything is literally a click now. All your haters are.
You have social media now, and you still have people performing at their best because they're not making social media a distraction. No, I can tell you for Danny McFarlane, Davian Clarke, and the others, track and field was all we had. It was our opportunity to better ourselves and our family, and we weren't going to give that up just to spend time on social media. So it comes back down to perspective. You're right. It also comes back down to the people that you have in your corner. One thing I can tell you about our guys, we took full responsibility for our successes and failures. So if we were in a particular program and we found that it wasn't the best place to be, we're not going to stay. We're going to figure out a way how we can improve. We're not going to depend on somebody else to call the shots for us. That was the type of person that I am, and that's how Danny McFarlane and the others were. We were hungry for success, and we were going to get it at all costs.
There's a follow-up question to that because I'm glad you mentioned moving. Do you think, and this is just based on what has been happening recently in Jamaican track and field, as I said, everything is publicized. It's just a simple question. I know Kino might get at me for it, but it's a simple question.
I know it was coming.
Would you have moved, regardless of the situation? Would you have moved from your coach if you had achieved the ultimate success, just because of you guys not getting along? And I think you know where I'm talking about.
I am, and this is why I'm saying that for me, I personally am different. I have a logical mind, and I go through the process of decision making. And if I find myself at any time, even when I was in high school, I found myself in a situation where I was going to use my emotions to make a decision, I would wait it out until the emotions subside. Because when you make, and you think about it for your own personal life, all emotional decisions usually lead to failure. So for me, it's about making that logical move that is best for me and my family. So if leaving was the right thing to do, I would go in the direction of where the data was pointing. And if staying was the right thing to do, I would figure out a way to make it work with me and that coach. Because I've been in situation before where it's different philosophies. But it was in my best interest to stay. So I stayed. I put aside the ego, I put aside the pride, because at the end of the day, I know for me, there was a small window of opportunity that I had to seize. And when that window closed, you just have to move on to something else in life.
I want to piggyback on that though, and I have a different view from perhaps Jermaine on that one because, and I get your explanation, sir, but I am also thinking that perhaps you would have been at a different stage from this particular athlete who we're discussing right now. This athlete has seen a lot of success already. Um, Success on the track and success financially. She would have achieved a lot of. She's never going to be poor again if she manages her money properly. And for me, that would have given her the impetus and the comfort to say, all right, I am now at a place where I am not getting along with this person. My mental health is at stake. I can take a gamble. And I personally don't see anything wrong with that.
Why would you gamble with your career? You see, we are emotional creatures sometimes, and my opinion would be different than yours because I've been in the sport. I know that what you just said is not accurate fully because you say Mike Tyson had $500 million and he broke. When it comes to track and field, remember, we retire at the age of 32 if we're fortunate. And all the money that we accumulate within that time, it will never stay. So you're right in terms of if the money is invested wisely, you can yield great income. But one of the things I can tell you, if you go back in time and look at the history of athletes retiring at 32 and how many of them can live on the money that they earn, it's only a handful of athletes can do that. And when I say a handful, I really mean a handful.
My
Agreed.
question,
Agreed.
my question, Dr. Haughton. I mean, the panel has been asking a lot of questions. I would ask if the 400-meter your pet event is dying slowly, dying a slow death in Jamaica. And how would we fix it?
Well, one of the things I find in Jamaica is that a lot of the coaches are not open to ideas that are proven. Let me give you an example. I remember trying to invite a few coaches to be a part of a system that had a proven track record. And I explained to the coaches that, look, the reason to come is to see something different, understand how it works, take the information and use it on Jamaican athletes. And I was told on numerous occasions, I already know what I know. I don't need any more knowledge. And that is upsetting because I've been at the highest level in terms of preparing the body. And I find that in Jamaica, and this is no disrespect to any of the coaches, but the athletes are not being prepared the right way. And how do I know that? You can look and see the inconsistency. The athletes are not able to go to the meets and perform year in, year out. Now I trained with Michael Johnson for 5 years. And Michael Johnson was ranked number one in the world over 10 times in the 400 meters alone. Number one in the world. So it is telling me that they found the American coaches, especially Coach Clyde Hart, and not all of them, but you have a few, who have found the secrets to training and preparing the body and the mind. And when I look at what's going on in Jamaica, I am saying that they need more insights and information. In fact, I am thinking about doing a series of seminars there, hoping that the coaches would come out and see the new information. Because, as I said before, my goal is to pass on the knowledge because I don't want to die with the knowledge. I can't run anymore. So the goal is to pass on the knowledge to some of these younger coaches so they now can apply it to themselves. Now, one of the things I hate, Mr. Duncan, is coaches who have the information and try to keep it for themselves. The information is not for us to keep. The information is for us to share and give some of those inner city youths the opportunity to become the best version of themselves in the 400 meters and other events.
Yeah, I'm also glad that you mentioned that because I've been around many coaches, and being a coach myself, I've seen where what you said a while ago is what really plays out. People get the information, they the science changes every day, every single day, and people will have some updates, and everybody holds it like this. Nobody wants to share the knowledge, and I think having the knowledge is great, but sharing the knowledge is even better because then it's going to bring everybody up to a particular standard that it can only be good for the country and for the program that we are all feeding into. And I personally have lived in situations like what you're experiencing and explaining, sorry, right now.
Yes, and the goal. You see, I'm gonna say something. I want you to think about it. In track and field, the athlete should be the star because the athletes, we have the talent. But you also find that the coaches want to be the star. And because of that, the coaches would hold on to the information. So when they hold on to the information, they're using it as a competitive advantage to bait the athlete to come their way.
Absolutely.
But the sad thing about it is that they're not teaching the athlete these things. The athletes are at practice and they don't have a clue what to do. And as a result of that, when they get the information, sometimes they can't match it up to take that information and maybe use it 10 years later on down the road because they don't understand the theoretical views to what they are doing.
Here's one of the things that I will say.
One moment, Jermaine, before you continue. Don't forget your point. Sorry. I'm just going to speak in conjunction to what he just said based on the comment Sheldon made. Sheldon said that he's concerned with the 400-meter runners transitioning to pro, and therefore we need to have a better training program. So my question in conjunction to Sheldon's statement is, what is it that is needed for juniors to transition and get them to transition better? Because you just mentioned about the training program happening where coaches are learned, however, they're not passing on that information, whether it be correctly or passing on that information in the best possible way. What is it then that we, whether it be, well, we can speak of Jamaica because we are there a lot, that we
That
here
is
at
a
Jamaica need to do to take our juniors to transition over,
so
especially in the
that is a fully
400.
loaded question. That
Loaded.
question is fully loaded. But I try to break it down this way. The 400-meter puts a lot of wear and tear on the body, and you can't get there overnight. So one of the things you would need is time to develop. But one of the things we find in Jamaica, because the coaches are competing, they want to get that person from point A to point C and D within 6 months. Now, for me, I rapidly developed when I went to college. Like, say, for example, when I won the boys' championship in 1992, in 1993, I ran 44.78, making the final at the World Championship in Stuttgart. And the next year, I continued to run 44 seconds. But one of the reasons why I was able to do that, because I did not compete in high school for the first 4 years of my life in high school. I was just wasting time around the schoolyard, which means that my body did not have a whole lot of wear and tear. It was fresh and it was ready to go. But we don't find that. So some people may say, if the athlete is running fast at an early age, that as they get older, they should develop and be better. But that's not true, because the wear and tear that the athlete body is going through, it will take some time for them to transition successfully at the collegiate level. And this is why I say that to send an athlete from the amateur into the pros is the worst decision one can make, because the athlete would need some time for the body to heal and for the confidence to grow. Now, for me, I went to a school that was very low key. And the reason why we did that, because I wanted to give myself time to mature without putting additional wear and tear on my body. So to answer your question, the key is time, and the key is not to get the athlete from point A to point Z in 6 months, because that sudden improvement sometimes can hurt the athlete if the athlete is running for year in, year out. So as a result of that, that is one of the reasons I encourage college, because college will give the athlete a cushion, right? And that cushion will help the body to recuperate. So by the time they hit their junior and senior year, they're ready to go. I'm giving you a lot of nuggets here. A lot of athletes, a lot of coaches won't do that because it is not in their best interest to keep to help the athlete to rest and transition. The goal is to get the results immediately, and as a result of that, they're putting the athlete's future at stake.
Doc, I am.
We
It's
agree,
almost like
Kino.
yeah,
We
yeah.
agree.
It's almost like I'm in heaven right now, because this is something that we speak about every week. And I am an advocate for college, just like you are. And I'm also an advocate for not pushing the athletes too far. Development takes time. It's not a fast thing. A lot of coaches, they understand the science, but they don't apply the science. Because if you look at, say, biomechanics, how it affects a female versus a male and their development and their transition is different. And a lot, as I said, it's very important developmentally for them to pace themselves. And a lot of the coaches don't do that. So I fully agree with you.
And you're absolutely right, because again, the athlete, the coaches want to be the star, and because of that, they want to get the most out of the athlete, even if it means hurting the athlete. And this is why it is important that the athlete and their handlers, especially like as I said, for me, I made a lot of the decision with advice from my mentor. Because at the end of the day, my mentor might want me to be the best, but he can't want it more than me. Yeah. Right? And as a result of that, I knew that I had to educate myself. So when I sat down and I made a decision, it was within my best interest, because the coaches are making decisions that are in their best interest. And this is why I advocate for athletes to learn the trade, understand what you're doing. So when you're put in a position where you need to make a decision, you can make the decision based on what is in your best interest and not what is in the best interest of the agent or the coaches. It's all about you, because your window is so small, and once that window closes, you got to find something else to do.
My question.
I must say, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Zavian. Go ahead, Zavian. Zavian, go ahead, please.
No, okay. My question is it the advent of the increase in earning power? It's like a two-edged sword for the sport right now, because athletes want to earn in that small window that they have, that they are transitioning to pro immediately. An athlete run 10.9, 10.95 and said, all right, I need to go pro, just because somebody's throwing money at them. And the important point, you said that you must have a mentor or somebody that has the vision to say, this may not be the right move at this time.
You know, there is a research, Mr. Duncan, that said that if they had there were a series of children, and they said that I can give the children 7 Skittles, and if they have the choice, they can eat it right now, or they can wait 2 hours to get a bag of Skittles. And you find that some of the students wanted to eat their Skittles right now, and some of the other students wanted to wait 2 hours in order to get the bag. So you find that instant gratification sometimes for people is not the best thing. Now, when they track some of those students who wait to get that bag of Skittles, they realize that they were more successful in life. They were more emotionally stable. They were more determined. They made better decisions, because the instant gratification is never the best way to go. Now, I can make a case. Like, say, for example, if you look at Kellyanne Fraser, she didn't go for the instant gratification. If you look at Elaine Thompson, she didn't go for instant gratification. If you look at most of MVP athletes, including Asafa Powell and the rest, they did not go for instant gratification. No, if you look at what Mr. Mills said recently, he said that when you make the transition, or you try to make the transition from amateur into the pros, you have 5% chance to succeed. Now, when you look at what's going on, no, 5% chance is not a lot. Now, here is what is going to make the situation worse, Mr. Duncan. We have 5 young girls coming out of high school and going into the pros. The market is now saturated, because it would be easier for 1 or 2 to become world champions and get paid. But no, you have 5 to 6, plus who was there before. Now, I can tell you that Nike or Puma is not going to pay all 5 and all 6 the same amount. So what you're going to find is that they're going to compete against each other, and then only a handful now is going to make it. And if you look at 5% chances, it means that somebody's going to be crying in the next 2 years.
So
My statement,
sorry,
because I'm gonna segue a bit
no,
because
before you segue, because he
I'm
just
still
made the point. He just
I'm
made
still
the
asking a
point
question on this
on.
though.
Yeah, man. Your question is gonna come just after this. I promise. Before you segue, he just made the point as it relates to Puma not offering everybody the same. Using Puma as an example, the same thing. Why I brought it up is because we, as admin, were speaking about the issue of contracts. Why is it that athletes' contracts are not open compared to other athletes who are in
Sports.
different sports? I want him to come back to that, but I just wanted to put it out there so that I didn't forget it. If you can understand what I was saying, Dr.
Yeah, I have
Haughton.
that question, Toya.
Okay.
Repeat.
No, I
You
have
want
that
me to respond
question.
to that? You want me to respond to that?
Yeah,
To that
yes, I
question, that
want
you
you to
want me to
respond
come
to
back
it.
to it?
Well, you can respond to it and then we take German question because German is better at remembering things than I do.
Okay.
That is true.
When it comes to contract, remember, one of my biggest fears is to give a high school athlete a contract because they don't know much about contracts. So you can basically give them anything. There are stories out there that a track athlete was given a swimmer's contract and he signed it and he went on his merry way. And that is a true story. I've seen contract coming to me where the athlete is a discus thrower. I'm just using a sport. But the contract was written in terms of a 10,000-meter runner. And some of the times the athlete would sign it because they're looking at the figures. I am saying that the reason why a lot of the contracts are not open because there's a lot of deception in the contracts. And because a newly amateur athlete, they don't know this, so they depend heavily on the agents to do what is in their best interest. No, you only can hope that the agent is honest, which in most cases you may not find. But I can tell you this, that when I review some of the contracts and I see some of the disadvantage that is taken of the athlete, you would cry if you know this. There are simple things that should be in it that is not in it, and they can't make these things open because if it's open, then you will straightfully know that the contract will not give you that great wealth that in your mind you think you're getting. And even if it is an opportunity to get the wealth is being ciphered to someone else based on how the contract is written. And let me give you a true example. One of my first contracts, my agent wanted the entire bulk of the money to come to them. And they wanted to put that in the contract. And I'm saying to myself, if you're only going to get 10% of the contract money, why should you get the whole 100% and then send me 90%? I want my 90. Let me take the whole 100 and I will give you your 10%. But what I'm saying is that a lot of the young athletes there's a level of fear and there's a level of ignorance. And they don't know anything about contracts really. So what are they going to demand? And this is why I say that it is important that athletes have people who are trustworthy, people who can educate them. Because when you make these mistakes, sometimes it's hard to reverse that process of failure.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Point
Absolutely.
noted.
thank you, thank you.
Um,
Jermaine, go right ahead.
all right, so Dr. Haughton, here's where I'm going to segue because everything you said about contracts, and as an educator, I have been one of those that I believe that civics and business or economics has to be taught in schools from you reach high school for reasons like this. The world is changing, and we're seeing where a lot of these athletes in other sports, if we even want to look in the US or even in Europe, at 16, 17, they're given professional contracts.
Yeah.
I am not against a youngster having a contract. I am one of those person that says go through the transitional phase. So you can become professional now at 17, but take your 3 to 4 years, go to your school. That as in your experience in there. Don't try to be number one tomorrow. Go to your school. But there's my transition into this. You made a statement April 23rd. Yeah, man, listen. And you said a lot of athletes are staying in school
Yeah, I
too
have
long,
that article. Yeah.
right? I want you to elaborate on what that means and how that is affecting them transitioning. Because we might know it, but the audience is out there. And I am one of them that says some of these guys need to leave school from 17 and 16. But elaborate on that for me, please.
In America, you basically graduate at 17, and then you go to college, and by the time you're 22,
You're
you're
out.
able to complete the degree. So if you want to go pro at 22, it's a perfect time if you're led the right way. But in Jamaica, it's different because the boys and girls championship take precedent over everything else. And because they want the performance, they know that they can take you out of the school at 17. Because if they take you out of the school at 17, they're going to lose out on some of the great performance. What you find in Jamaica is 19-year-old guys who were supposed to be sophomore in college are competing against 17-year-olds. So they're 2 years ahead, which means that those transition period should be from freshman to sophomore, just like going to sixth form. A sixth form student is eligible to be a sophomore in college, but they would prefer to spend that extra 2 year in high school just to dominate other high school athletes. I think that's not the best way to go. In fact, you might dominate the high school guys, but when you try to make the transition, you're going to realize that those level of development, the social development, the networking that you're supposed to have, all of these things you forfeited when you stay back in high school. Think about it. It would be best to get 2 years of college instead of getting an additional 2 years of high school.
But
You think about it.
it's a systematic problem that we're having because say they don't want to go collegiate in the States. We don't have universities here that will
Offer scholarships.
offer scholarship or allow them to transition. Even I would go back to I went to a community college. I know you can leave out of fifth form, go into a community college, but inter college is not at a stage where it even develop any athlete anymore. If it happens, back in the days, you could have looked forward to an intercol track meet. I know it's really good because athletes are coming out of the high school into the system. No, our education system don't even facilitate a 16-year-old to leave anymore to go into university or anything because overall the system is not facilitating growth at that level.
If you look at what the US is doing now, like say for example, I could spend an extra 2 years in college, in high school if I wanted to. But the US had realized that the Jamaicans and other countries are beating the system. So what they do now, they start the clock at fifth form. So if you spend a fifth form year in high school, you can't repeat fifth form and think that you can come to the States now and get back that year. The clock starts to tick once you now decide to repeat. Now the advantage is going to sixth form. Once you go to sixth form, then you have a little advantage. But here's what I find in Jamaica, and you said it. Let's say right now the University of the West Indies for the past few years they decided not to give out any scholarship. So who you have given out scholarship now? Maybe Michael Teachers College, um, GC
I
Foster
mean,
College, and maybe UTech.
I mean,
What do you think
Excelsior does
behind?
it. I can say the sports not much, but they'll pay you.
Not
They'll pay
much.
part of it.
Not much. So one of the other benefits to going to the States is the level of competition that you get. Now, and that's just one other benefit. You get quality competition. Also, I find that the US system will take up that tab. You see,
It
if you
does.
put a number to what you're getting, it's not free because when we look at our I-20, we may see $60,000 to $75,000 a year for your scholarship,
It's expensive.
depending on the school that you go. And that is money. That is you using your talent to build a future. Now, here's why this is important. Now, let's say you stay in high school in Jamaica and you get injured. What is going to happen to you? Who is going to give you a job? Who is going to pay for your college education? How are you going to survive if you're not from one of those affluent neighborhoods? Now, track and field is something that the inner city youth are a part of, maybe 98% of the inner city. So I can talk for me. My athletic ability was the only way I could get into college.
And
There was no other way for me. And a lot of the youth them that we have now, there is no other way for them to get a college education. And if they choose to forfeit that, what is going to happen to them 3, 4, 5 years from now?
I went to KC with a lot of superstars, and my classmates were not average runners. They are exceptional runners. And I always ask them, what the deal? They're like, I'm able to get a scholarship. I can't pay the school fee for college. And everybody would take it and leave.
Yeah.
They'll run the times, participate just to get an education.
And here why that is important, Mr. Duncan. If you notice recently, a few years ago, when all the athletes were staying back in Jamaica, it put a lot of burden on the clubs. And what you found then is that they did not have enough time to help those athletes to fully mature, because the athletes were coming out of high school so fast. They did not have the resources. And as a result, the athletes did not get a lot of time to prove themselves, because other athletes are coming out who were performing well. We don't have enough money in Jamaica to maintain those athletes at the level in terms of helping them to transition successfully. We don't have the money to do so. So one of the reasons I encourage using the United States as a feeder program, because it takes off a lot of the burden of the government, of the schools, and even of the clubs. No, I'm saying some people should stay, but I'm also saying that some people should go.
I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because the whole issue of staying in school too long is an issue for me as well. And I want to segue into something here that is very controversial, and it's a talking point, has been a talking point over the years. The whole thought process behind a lot of these athletes staying in school, as you rightly said, is for them to compete at champs and for the clout and for the coaches to be stars and to maintain their positions, and you know, the old boy association will keep paying them and all of these things, right?
Yeah.
But how do you view champs in the development of our athletes? In terms of, is it a negative or is it a positive? Because in some regards, whilst I see champs as, you know, a great thing to develop young athletes, I also see a great negative in it because of how the coaches use it as a tool to hold some of these athletes back for their own personal gains.
Well, first, let me say that there's a lot of benefits that are derived from the champ system. A lot of athletes get a chance to shine. A lot of athletes are able to earn scholarships because they perform on the big stage. It builds confidence over a period of time, because for me, when I was able to overcome the fear of failure and win my individual title, it helped me to transition better. It gave me confidence when I went into the big leagues, the collegiate system, etc. The only reason I was able to do so was because my school protected me. They saw that I was a talented athlete, and they individually invested money in my development, which means that they helped me to board somewhere else. They did not want to race me to death because they realized that I had the potential. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to put the burden on champs. I'm going to put the burden on the individual school because sometimes they too get overzealous because they want to win and they exploit the athletes. So the individual schools, the old boys association and so on, they can stop it if they want to. Champs is just giving them the opportunity to shine.
Right.
But the individual schools are the ones who are destroying the athletes and not the champ system.
All right.
I have a simple talk on this.
Give me a second there, Jermaine.
All right, cool.
I just want to piggyback on that a little bit, though. I take your point, but I want to also jump into a broader issue because the notion is that there is a level of deception, not just in the school system or within the coaching fraternity, but there is also some amount of manipulation, for want of a better word, and politics involved in sports administration in Jamaica at large, but specifically in track and field. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I do. Let's put it this way. When I spent the time and I looked at majority of the athletes who are in track and field, they are people from the inner city. And I call them a vulnerable population because by themselves, they are not able to take themselves from point A to point B. Somebody must come out and invest in them. Whether it's going to be the school system or the J3A or the JOA or whoever, but somebody must invest in them. So because of that, you find that sometimes these institutions or these entities, they see them as an opportunity because they realize that these individuals cannot take care of themselves. So they may stipulate some unfair things for them to do. I've seen it over and over. I've seen athletes who take gifts and thought that it would end right there, but it did not. I've seen athletes being used to compete and the money was going to others and not them. Based on who we are in terms of people from the inner cities, we are easily deceived because people realize that we are in need. At the end of the day, I would encourage the athletes them to and this is why I focus on education, because I can say this, for me, I wasn't the first generation to go to high school, first generation to go to college in my family. And because of that, it gave me an opportunity to think outside of the box. Now, if you limit yourself to be from the inner city, thinking the way a majority of them think, then you will not be able to protect yourself. I was able to say no in a lot of instances because I was thinking outside of the box. I want the same for these inner city athletes. I want the same for this vulnerable population, where you don't allow desperation to cause you to compromise your dignity and your talent.
But I don't think they're at a stage of desperation right now, per se. I think the system is just, for me, these shoe companies and these companies that invest is raping, I would use such a word, raping Jamaican athletes of their talent, because I can pay you little or nothing. Because if I'm an athlete now and I said, I'm not going to take this offer now because I'm not knowledgeable of this information that you're presenting to me, give me 2 more years. My negotiation skill for the next 2 years, I'm going to ask you for more. So they're taking these young athletes of lack of knowledge or naive, because they're so naive that they can throw stuff at them. I have athletes in Jamaica, young athletes, 17-year-old, that they're making more money than I am because they go pro. Well, they're driving nicer cars than that I couldn't even consider doing. And I think a stop needs to put to it, or some level of something need to go to it, because there's no way you're going to offer a 16-year-old $1 million contract and expect them to say no.
But that's desperation, though.
It's not desperation, because you have the option.
It's born out of desperation. Look at it, Zavian. Before Dr. Haughton comes in, you have an athlete. You're offering that athlete who is or is an inner city athlete, someone who is from a deep rural Jamaica, have to carry water every morning.
We argue that
Don't have the
point,
proper
Kino.
nutrition. Hold on, man. Them hungry. Really
All
and
right.
truly, them hungry, and they
That's true.
they
You're
need
going
the
to put
help.
in
They're
front of
gonna
them face.
go.
I'm gonna
They're
take
gonna
it.
go
Dr.
for it.
Haughton is from a different era with a lot of athletes, and I'm a little bit older. If I was presented the opportunity of $1 million, then come to the US to study, the opportunity that the US, we had this discussion a couple of months ago, the opportunity that the US will give me, I'll be able to get my citizenship. I'll be able to move my family out of poverty. I'll be able to move them here. I'll be able to see the world and expose myself, which is more valuable than the $1 million when
I
you put.
completely agree with you. But how many of these athletes have the intellectual acumen that Dr. Haughton spoke about to sit down and decipher all of these things and to rationalize it? How many of their parents, who
There you
themselves
go.
never went to school,
Okay.
can even think about something like that?
So I'll piggyback on what you say, Kino. It's not, you can't really blame the athletes. You have to blame the advisors, because the people who encourage them to take these deals know better. They have seen these deals before. They know what the reduction clauses are.
Exactly.
They know that it's like playing Russian roulette. I can also say this to you, Mr. Duncan. A lot of these athletes are given money up front that are not guaranteed. And the intent is for them to pay it back when the money starts to come in. So you might see
Yes.
somebody with a Mercedes Benz or a BMW. It's not owned by them. It may appear that way. And this is why when the athletes now start to make money,
You're broke.
the people are just taking back everything because all those debt must be paid.
Yes, it's like a recording contract. You
Exactly.
may
That's
you may
exactly what
be
I was
given
going to
a
say.
sum. Yeah, Jermaine, you have knowledge on those things. You're given a
That's
sum up
exactly what I
front,
was going to say.
and then you're
And
expected that. Right.
here's my take on it, though. I have said this for years, where I believe if we are going to go to the collegiate level, and I don't believe that every person has to go overseas to go to college. Shelly was here, Asafa was here, Sharon was
Yeah,
here.
but hold on, Jermaine. I asked a question the other day and nobody seemed to answer. MVP had a program that you
With
had to
UTech,
go to UTech to be a part of MVP with Shelly, Asafa. A lot of them was
Sharon,
a Sharon. I went to school with them at UTech. They were in classes and they go training in the evening. They went to school. It's an MVP program that they had.
How many of
well,
our athletes can matriculate into university?
Well, no, not much.
Okay.
but back to what I was saying, though. For a lot of athletes, we know a lot of them don't meet the academic qualifications to go overseas or to go even to UTech, as Kina just said. Not everybody's going to take the JUCO route, right? To go to junior college and then go to Division One to study, to compete, because at the end of the day, their mindset is, I need to make money. And it's a bigger problem, it's a societal problem, because I'm a teacher, I teach teenagers. And if you wave $1 million in front of them versus an opportunity, they're going to take the $1 million. They're not going to look and say, okay, if I take this opportunity, I can make $20 million on the back end. They're just going to take the one, because that's the society that we live in. And a lot of the persons, these sponsors, they know this. And they also know that they're undervaluing the athletes. And what a lot of your generation may have not done, and I'm not specifically speaking about you, but the entire generation, is I don't believe that there are enough of the previous generation to educate the younger ones. And that's where I want to go. Because my bit now is not going for athletes, but administration and mentoring and development. So can you talk to me about that part?
It's very tough, Jermaine, to accomplish that because we are not giving access to the younger generation. We're not giving access to the younger generation because, and I don't want to say the administrators, but they are influential people in the administration
In high schools.
that though, and in the high school system,
The high school system is rough.
administrators as well, that they don't want us to pass on the information to the younger generation, because what we're going to do with the information, one, we're going to be honest, and we're going to look, and the information is going to be what is in the best interest of the athletes. Now, it may sound funny that and I'm not saying it outright, that the people who are managing them don't have their best interest at all. But at the end of the day, what I want you all to do is to look at outcomes. Look at those who went to college and look at the outcomes. Look at what they had to fall back on. Look at those who did not go to college and look at the outcomes. Look at the information that they're getting from the administration and look at the outcomes. I'm saying that there are people who will not allow us to share the information with this young generation. And these young generation, they are encouraged to go for the money. Now, I'm saying that based on the outcomes, that it is a trick. It's a trap. And for me, the reason why I was so competitive and I was able to matriculate into other areas is because of the knowledge that I have. Now, I'm listening to you guys, and you're saying the athletes are not, they're not able to attend college. We're saying that if you give some of them the opportunity to go to a university, that they will not survive. Yet still they spend 5 years in high school or maybe more. Why is it that
7 or 8.
they're prepared to be competent collegiate athletes academically? It is telling me that those who are to educate them the right way, they're not doing a good job, because look at outcomes. Now,
Absolutely.
I'm confident that because of my education, I'm able to lead other people, mentor other people, and guide other people. And when I talk, I don't just talk from an opinion standpoint. I give hardcore facts that can help people to understand that the path that they're on now is not the right path, and it will lead to nothing but a destruction, failure, disappointment,
That is, yeah,
frustration.
yeah.
So, Dr.
And that is,
Orton, go ahead, Kino.
no, I'm saying, and that is exactly why I'm an advocate for education. I think it is the only way out of the situation that you're in right now, along with your gift, your talent.
But we have to start from 9th grade, because then we need these athletes to be up to par to get into university.
I agree, and that is why I believe that the individual schools, as Dr. Haughton said, they are the ones that are failing these athletes, because there's a system of manipulation. These athletes have become tools of winning champs and
Facts.
and
Facts.
getting the schools the highlight. And I would dare say as well, I know Dr. Haughton might not want to say it, but I would dare say that the J3A is a failure. I don't see that body as a body that is doing enough for track and field. So it starts from the schools, but it goes
Too many
into
businessmen.
even into the professional ranks. You have people
Too
in
many
the J3
businessmen.
who can't even come out and give a statement. They don't a proper statement. How do you expect our athletes who sometimes embarrass themselves even in simple interviews? It's messy.
You know, you did English languages 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 6th form. When you win 100 meter, you cannot put I did it to represent my our construct a proper statement.
I blame the schools.
You blame the school,
because the focus was not on
the
talent. The focus was not on education, and that is why I think a school like St. Jago is as they will never win champs. St. Jago, in my view, will never win champs, because
they have won already.
well, yeah, but they will never win again. The focus is on a balance between academics and the talents and the output on the track. There is and it's emphasized all the time. If you don't have a certain average, if you don't have certain qualifications in your book, in terms of book paper, your test that you do and whatever you achieve in school, you just can't go forward.
I'm going to chime in there, sir, as the person that sits in a classroom every single day. Kino isn't lying. The problem is, what has happened in life nowadays is And Dr. Haughton, you're older than me by a good amount. um, so I would know when I was going to school, no matter how talented you were at a particular thing, whether it was sports, arts, whatever it was, you were always told that you need your education. What if it failed? I think a lot of persons now have seen the Usain Bolt model, and everybody thinks the Bolt model works for everybody. And that is one of the biggest problems that it's having. I'm not against education. I've said go and get your education while running. I don't have a problem with that. Many people have done it. But for many of these youngsters, the problem has always been people in their ears. And Kino mentioned the J3. I saw something in 2019 it was where, and I'm going to call his name because we have young athletes who watch this program. Mattison from Kingston College was forced to go out and run. One of the most promising young athletes.
He was not supposed to run, Jermaine.
He wasn't supposed to run.
He was not supposed to run. He was supposed to walk that race.
But you can't expect a competitive person to go into a race and their nature not kick in. I'm sure Dr. Haughton will agree with me.
David Clarke did it back in the days too. A lot of superstars did it.
And we are having this problem now. So I want you to tell me, or if you could say something, because as I said, we do have young athletes watching this program, including one that just shelled on the place a few months ago, right? I want you to say something to them about understanding their body, the importance of education, and choosing the right people. Because not everybody going to have an NG or whatever it may be. So I want you to talk to them for me.
Well, first and foremost, Mr. Duncan and Kino, you made a point about 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. I have found that by the time you reach 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, many of the bad habits that you develop, they can hurt you.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did when I launched the Mind of a Champion tour, and I tried to educate the administrators at that level to say that we have to start with the grassroots programs. The grassroots is where you can lay some of the solid foundation. And I've also made arguments that you have to educate and give some of the coaches at the grassroots level the opportunity to grow. They don't see a whole lot of future in coaching because they're not able to do some of the level 1 and level 2 coaching certification at that level. So it means that we are not investing enough in the coaches who are dealing and nurturing those talent from that early age. Because if you want to stop some of the bad practices, then that's where you need to start. Now, I want to answer your question, but I can't answer it directly because I am saying that when you don't have coaches who have pensions and stuff like that to gain from coaching, then they don't see a future per se in coaching. And as a result of that, they try to get the most out of that high school athlete in order to be a star and create young stars, even if it means to compromise teaching them the right things. Now, I can tell you, I've been a coach. And it takes a lot of time to educate a young person as to what it takes to be a champion. But what I can say is that when they get it from that age, they would know better at the age of fifth form to know that you never go there and compete when you're injured if you want to move to a brighter future, because at the end of the day, you're no good to your team, you're no good to your family, you're no good to yourself if you destroy your body. So the key is when you athlete know from the foundation that the importance of warm up, the importance of cool down, the importance of stretching, the importance of meditating in terms of getting your mind together, the importance of being honest, and the importance of saying no. As I said before, sometimes these people with the influence, they can get into a young child's mind and they can persuade them to do things that are not in their best interest. And because the parents are not around to protect their children, they can do whatever they want. Now, I've heard people make the statement and a comparison with Usain Bolt. I'm putting you to the test to say, how many of these inner city athletes have both mothers and fathers who are protectors of them?
And
You
went to
had
church
a
on a
mother and
Sunday.
a father who were disciplinarians. So the fundamentals were in place. And a lot of these inner city athletes, they don't have mothers and fathers. Look, I'm just saying that if you don't have mothers and fathers then, and you want the person to be better prepared to transition into the next level, then the guardians or the administrators must have people there who can genuinely protect these athletes. And we don't see that today. I hope I answer your
Dr.
question.
Dr. Otley, you just mentioned about mothers and fathers. I'm not oblivious to the answer to this question, but I think it's a valid question to ask. For those juniors, such as being 16, 17, they're about 18, they're about, when they are entering into contracts, who basically is there with them on the legal level of things, who basically is there with them to help them to make that decision. We see that happening a lot of juniors signing contracts, going pro in this era now, a lot. And I think
Hold on, Toya. I have a question though. No, hold on. I ask you a question before you ask the question. You said track and field keep their thing close to their heart. Is it an offer or it's a contract? Because they can make an offer, you know. They can be made an offer.
But it becomes a contract. You know that it becomes a contract in the line of business. It becomes a contract when we ink that. So the offer is made, the offerer makes the offer, and the offeree has to accept. So once the offerer accepts it, it now becomes a contract. You know this. This is the line of business that we're going. Now it cannot it cannot become a contract if the person who is given the offer doesn't accept it. There must be an acceptance.
Ever bless. You asked a very important question.
Go ahead, Dr.
You asked a very important question because there is a particular strategy that is being used here. And because the parents are not competent to look things over, most of the time the athletes, they have guardian. And the guardian is not blood related. So in most cases, the athlete would trust the guardian.
The coach.
It means that the guardian now makes the decision and
I was about to say.
Which is the coach?
And everything.
Which is the coach?
The coach in many cases.
It can be anyone. It can be anyone looking out for the athlete best interest. Now, as I said before, you're right, Miss Everbless, an offer is an offer. But when somebody is making an offer, let's say to a high school athlete, they're going to find all the reason why they don't want to pay this. You're young, you're inexperienced, you're not mature enough, the system is not in place, who is going to coach you? And as a result of that, you see now a trend where the athletes are steered. So in order to get the contract, they are steered to a particular group of people. And that particular group of people now, we must just say they're not parents and the athlete can still be underage. But we now have to hope and trust that those group of people will look out for the best interest, and those group of people will push back on some of the offers, the proposals that are being made, and hope that they don't make a decision based on the future potential of the athlete. Because I've seen it before where athletes get that proposal, they accept it, and there's no turning back. And then when you look on some of the clause, the reduction clause, and it's almost impossible for that athlete to walk away. Now they look good because a part of the contract is that you will get that outfit. And sometimes the athletes are happy with their clothing. But when it comes to hardcore money, it's not really there.
People laughed. Go ahead, moderator.
I'm happy that you said the reduction clauses. So my question is, what are some of the things that these athletes are supposed to look for or look through or look on when that offer is being made before they accept it? We know that one of them, as you just mentioned, is that reduction clause. What are some of the other things that what are some of the other things that are so pertinent that you definitely look for that in that contract, or you look through it or you read through it to make sure you fully understand it, especially the fact when, as you said, some parents who are going with the athlete, or the guardian who is going with that athlete, may not be cognizant of it?
So to answer your question this way, Miss Everbless, the athletes have no say. They don't look at the contract. It's not something that they do. In fact, you will find that in a lot of instances, the contract is not even written in the athlete's name. The contract is for the group. So the athlete now, and in my time, the asset was the athlete, because the athlete would be the one bringing in the money. But you don't find that anymore. It's not the athlete anymore. It's the other group. And as a result of that, you will find that even sometimes the contract can be in the other group. So what I'm saying here is this. The athletes, in a lot of instances, not all, that they are just being used to collect the funds. They don't, and one of my goals is to educate them to say that you as the athlete, you need to have your own personal advisors. I did an interview with Michael Johnson, and Michael Johnson made it clear. So I want to answer your question this way. Michael Johnson said, I went out and I got an agent that worked for me. My coach worked for me. My chiropractor worked for me. Everybody else worked for me, and it was my duty to put people together to give me information that was in my best interest. But that's not how it goes in Jamaica. No. The athlete now is the one working for the coach, working for the agent, working for the other group.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's
and as a result,
and that's where education comes. That's where education comes and become paramount.
But that's a valid point, though. But the administrators won't allow a Latoya, a Kino, a Jermaine that put a group together and say, let us educate these young athletes in seminars. Nobody will show up to the seminars. They wouldn't even endorse the seminars. You struggle with your own seminars to educate coaches to change their coaching patterns.
Well,
Jamaica in itself not facilitating these athletes to learn anything. As we say, we just create one bag of done sweeper back of the class.
Mr. Duncan put it this way. Based on what you're saying, then you can project what the future of track and field is going to be in Jamaica, that athletes will run fast and they will have nothing to show later on because they are just employees and they really don't own much. So until the athletes become aware and realize that it is in their best interest to start making decisions for themselves, then whatever they get, then that's what it is.
I have seven female athletes now I can call out. Akira Nugent, Kevona Davis, the Tina twins. What's her name?
Tina twins.
Yeah, the Clayton twins. And if I'm supposed to
evaluate Serena Cole,
and if I'm supposed to evaluate out of that set, who is better off right now, is Akira Nugent and KD.
And why would you say that?
Because they're the one with the education.
Did you see them this weekend?
And they were good.
Well, at the end of the day, Mr. Duncan, what I'm saying here is that at the end of the day, it is the athlete's responsibility to start taking their own career in their own hands. And I just gave you a blueprint to what the elite athletes are using and doing to achieve their goals. If an athlete chooses to allow the coach, the agent, and others to run the show and do things that are not in their best interest, then what more can you do? For me, I am only working with athletes who are serious about this and athletes who want to make a change. You're going to find them a dime a dozen, you know. If you look and see how many of them went pro and how many of them you can say no are successful athletes transitioning from amateur successful in the professional, you don't see a lot. So what I'm saying here is that until the athletes understand what it takes to be professionals, then we will never ever get to that level where you see another Usain Bolt. You may see an athlete come around once every blue moon, or they may win a race here or there, a race or two. But at the end of the day, that's not what we want for the athletes. But the athletes must want more for themselves.
We
Plain and
have a
simple.
we it's almost like everything that you're speaking, sir, is gospel, because if these changes are not made, I don't know what's going to happen to us, because we're seeing regression in so many aspects of the sport. You have, on the one hand, you have a sports administration that employs antiquated methodologies to, and they don't see anything wrong with it. You have the schools that have their own agenda. You have the agents and the parents and those people who don't necessarily have the know-how. And this is why I think I agree with you that the athletes now need to become bosses rather than employees. And I've often thought about that whole thing, and it escapes my mind as to why our athletes think that it is the agent or the coach or the shoe company that employs them. You know, the shoe company gives you a contract. You well, in some regards, you're employed to them. But in terms of the coaches and the agents and those people who are, you know, around you on a daily basis, the doctors, you are the ones who are their employer. You know, I think this is something that needs to be taught. It needs to be explained. And I have a serious challenge. I don't know if you have explained it. I'll give you the opportunity to elaborate on that. But I see where we, persons with the same mindset that you have in terms of opening all of this to our athletes, are shut out of the system. You are not given free reign. And even if you get a foot in, there is a barrier, or there are barriers. I don't know if you can elaborate on that, because I've seen it happen, and at your level, I'm sure you would have seen it as well.
Kino, one of the things that we don't seem to get, that this is a business. And we have products in the form of athletes. And we have people who may exploit the products. And you have people who may be patriots who want the best for the athletes. But at the end of the day, the athletes too need to understand that this is a business. And they must understand that there is a shelf life for the talent. And they must understand that if you don't have the right people around you to help you to make the right decisions, then you're going, the asset now eventually become a liability. One of the
Absolutely.
things why I find that it is necessary for those who are dominating athletics in the administration department, that it is not in their best interest to fully educate the athletes. They know why. And this is why, for me, when I see athletes who they are the first generation in their families to go to high school, I can't see why they would make the decision not to further their education, because it is through education you can be empowered, and through education you can make good decisions. So let me give you another example. You have people who are encouraging these athletes not to go to school, yet still they are sending their children to school, to
To
college.
school.
So it is telling me that they see us, and I put myself in it because I was once there, as a product that they can invest in and exploit. As I said to you before, let's say those 5 young girls, Miss Reed, Miss Cole, Miss, you name them.
Davis. Yeah.
Let's say they only get 2 years in terms of generating an income. And after that 2 years, nothing else happens. What is going to happen to them? What is their future? What will they lose?
Yeah.
Who is going to employ them in their organization? These are questions, that real questions that they must ask themselves. How many athletes today, successful Jamaican athletes, are on the board of any trustee or on any administration? How many? How many athletes today with a degree that perform for Jamaica at the highest level are working in any part of corporate Jamaica? How many? They don't give us the opportunities to do that. So when someone encourages a young girl or a young boy to give up their education, it's one of the biggest mistakes. And if you're silly enough to accept the proposal that they're making, what else? So I am
Yeah.
passionate about it because I was able to help my family with the education that I have. I'm able to use that same education to help a whole lot of other people. But when I see some of the decisions that these young people are making, it pains my heart, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So,
Dr. Haughton, I'm just gonna ask you in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
If you were given the keys to the J trays, what would you do to ensure the progress of Jamaican track and field and Jamaican athletes in 30 seconds?
Well, I can't take long because I want to answer your question this way. For one, I have no aspiration to be a part of the J3 in terms of any administration program. So I'm saying that so those who are listening knows that that's not my ambition. That's not what I want to do. But what I have done, I have met with influential people in the country, and I shared with them my vision of putting in place a grassroots program. Because I know that if you want to build more Shelley and Fraser and Elaine Thompson here and Asafa Powell and Usain Bolt, that's where it starts. A lot of the young boys are not able to read at the third grade level, which means that if I try to coach them, many of them can't fully understand. If I'm trying to leave and have an impact in terms of giving them hardcore information, many of them can't understand what I'm saying. Most athletes today, they just go and follow the program. They can't make the connection. They don't have the conceptual skills and knowledge in order to fully grasp what should happen next. So what I would do, I would make sure that a grassroots program is implemented throughout Jamaica. I would also make sure that some of the developing coaches at the primary school level, that they are fully equipped with knowledge and information and certification, because they are doing a major job. They are preparing some of these young athletes, and the high school coaches are taking them and destroying them. So that's where I would start. I would make sure that a lot of even the administrators, that they have the right way, the right concept of looking at developing a talent. I would make sure that they have the right marketing people, because what the youth have the talent, but you're not marketing the talent. So there's a whole lot of things that need to be done. But what I find today is that everybody's satisfied with the little that they're getting, and they don't realize that if they do it the right way, they can earn billions. Now, what I can say to you that some people are earning billions. It's just not being trickled down to the athlete.
True.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, your turn. Your time. Your time.
So thank you so much. I want to say thank you a lot for coming on here and sharing your thoughts with, sharing your knowledge. I have learned something. You surprised me with. I mean, if you never surprised me with anything else, you surprised me with the aspect of saying that an athlete doesn't get to see their contract. That can
Look at that last comment, Latoya.
But some athletes then can't read, so even if you give them, they're
Jesus.
not going to be able to read it.
Zavian, you're going to go behind.
You look at the last comment.
All right, so the last comment said, "It's true a coach." Sorry, we're just wrapping up, guys, and I'm just going to look at this last comment. It's true a coach told me that she told the athlete to run a mile to warm up. They're asking how many laps that. Scratch. But I mean, and that is coming from HP Track Chat. I won't say anything about that. But I want to say thank you so much for sharing your thought space. Thank you so much for telling us where your mindset is as it relates to what is happening in track and field, your experiences that has happened and what you see is happening now and where you think it can go or should go. We do appreciate that. And sometime down the line, definitely we will have you again, right? Thank you so much for telling us some things and opening our eyes to certain things. There are some questions that didn't get to come out, but I'm sure we'll get the answer to that also at a later date and stuff. And we appreciate you taking the time out to be here with us. We were happy that you were able to join us and be here. So thank you, I must say. Any last words? That's my last words for Dr.
I
Haughton.
will leave you. I will leave you by saying that in November again, I will start the Mind of a Champion tour. I am in the process of completing the locations. I think this time we will only be doing about 6 schools. It's all free of cost. I will give you guys more information, and I'll ask the host to give out tickets and stuff. So if you're close by, you can be a part of it. It is my way of giving back because, as we said earlier, the information is important, and those who want it will use it. Believe me, it's not for everyone because some people have already made the decision that the information won't make a difference. But my aim is to continue to inspire as many as I can, and continue to share the information, because once we are no longer in this world, the information dies with the individual. So thank you very much for having me on your program, and I look forward to more discussions with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Haughton.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And the viewers do appreciate it. We're getting messages, so we want to thank you so much again.
Definitely. So, once again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on Track and Feelings. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you're joining us from. Please ensure that you subscribe, you like, and you also look forward and look out for our next discussion where we will talk about track and feelings in our feelings while we matters most, or track and field, and also to discuss what is coming. What happened last week, we have not yet discussed the weekend, but we surely will be getting to the weekend soon. Sometime this week we'll get to the weekend. So please enjoy the rest of your day, morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And we are happy that you were able to join us here at Track and Feelings. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.